Look around Metro Atlanta. You may start to see less of a federal footprint on its offices. This is a part of Trump administration's move to cut back on what it finds as underused, outdated, and expiring leases. Here now to offer some insight is Chris Godfrey. He's with the commercial real estate agency Advision. Is it Advision Young?
Or Avison Young.
Avison Young. Okay, all right.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much. All right, Chris, thanks so much for being on the show with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So when it comes to federal government starting to pull out millions of square foot of office space, how big of a ripple effect does this take place in Metro Atlanta?
Absolutely. So Metro Atlanta is in the top 6 markets of federal leases. Avison Young put together a report because we couldn't find it anywhere else, where we've put together all the GSA leases across the country, and there's over 5.5 million square feet that have been canceled year to date. And Georgia ranks number 6 with 256,000 feet canceled year to date, which is significant.
Yeah. Sounds like it. What kind of buildings or landscapes or landlords are being affected or hit hardest by these cancellations?
So initially, it's most of the Class B or older product, and so some of that we'll continue to see. But 120,000 feet with the CDC, and then the Fish and Wildlife with 35,000 feet. Those are some of our biggest ones earlier this year.
What does it see? What do we see when these cuts come to not just for the core downtown locations, but some of the suburb areas as well?
Well, what's interesting is we have a very busy suburban office market. We're busy with activity with office tenants, but then when you have these GSA leases that are rolling or are at risk, it puts landlords at risk for what do they do next. There's not that many large tenants looking for that quality of space or just that market in general. So it does put a question mark as to what becomes of those assets. And a lot of times that means, how do you reposition it? How do you reinvest in those buildings?
Yeah. Do you expect this to change how cities recruit for and retain federal agencies in their business districts?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the GSA leases a lot of times have a provision where the government can actually switch entities that are in that lease, which will be interesting to watch because a landlord might have signed on one agency thinking it was maybe the education department, and it could trade with a different agency that maybe doesn't go with its tenant mix as quite as well. So it'll be an interesting thing for communities to see. And then obviously, how can the government fill those spaces or ensure that a community is stabilized? You really want to make sure you're taking care of your communities, that those leases are being rolled over at.
Yeah. Your team developed a tracker to help monitor this shift. What kind of insight can property owners get from the data that you guys covered?
Well, what's fascinating is this downsize really started in the Obama administration, but then with Doge earlier this year in Q1 is when a lot of this caught the news waves as there was an acceleration. So it has been a long-term trend, but one thing that we're talking with landlords is how do we look at your risk and how do we minimize that going forward?
Yeah. Can the tool figure out what areas would be cut next?
So the tool has what's called hard and soft areas. So in a GSA lease, you have the hard term, which is the dedicated lease amount, and then you have the soft term, which is the government can give an X amount time notice to exit their lease. And so as more leases get into that soft term, they're more at risk. And so that's how we're able to talk to our clients about that soft term. And there's 1.3 million square feet entering into that soft term in 2025. It's not likely all these will be canceled, especially as the government return to office mandates continue. But there is a risk there that we're able to help our clients look at.
Do you see it going that way? You think it will go that way, or how optimistic are you about it not going that way? I should ask.
Well, you see companies like AT&T that gave back a lot of square footage, and then they have to go back to market and lease back hundreds of thousands of feet because they have return to office mandates. Traffic's back in Atlanta, as you know, and I think with that, people are going back to their office. I think going back to the office is different. They want a good environment to work out of, but also if you cut all of these leases, people have to go to work somewhere. So I think you move big, but then you kind of pull back because your people still have a place to work.
So in a situation like this, well, I guess in your case, having to find these places and get other businesses in there, those kind of things, what's the best route to take?
So get ahead of it. We're talking with our clients, what is your exposure? How do we get ahead of it? How do you start marketing it? Or how do you start having early conversations with the agency that's in your building? to see if they're using it. What is their use of that space? Because if they are using it, the chances of it staying off the chopping block are much better. So we're just saying get ahead of it and have early conversations, and then if there is a risk there, let's figure out a market study for what other businesses are around you, what are economic ripples that we could do, or is there opportunity for redevelopment, multifamily, retail, because Atlanta's a market to be in, but certainly when you have this much space at risk, and then that doesn't even account for the buildings GSA owns, we're really hopeful that the government does take into consideration the community in which these spaces are leased or owned, so that they can take care of our citizens.
Yeah. All right, Chris Godfrey, really appreciate you joining us today, and have a great weekend.
Thanks so much. You too.
All right, take care now.